Well, good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. Good to see our board members online here. We are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We will be translating the meeting simultaneously to Spanish. Claudia, could you please give the instructions to those who would like to join our meeting in Spanish?
Yes, Mr. Cameron. Good morning. Buenos días, bienvenidos. Los servicios de interpretación en español van a estar disponibles de una manera simultánea. De la manera en la que pueden tener acceso a este servicio, en unos momentos se va a encender el servicio de interpretación. Lo van a notar en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Van a notar un icono de un globo terráqueo o un símbolo de mundo. Favor de hacer un clic. Y de esa manera se va a lanzar la opción en español. Favor de elegir el idioma de español. Inmediatamente pueden escuchar la interpretación simultánea. Ahora, si están teniendo acceso a esta junta por medio de su celular o tableta, iPad, ustedes van a notar 3 puntos, ya sea en la parte superior o inferior de su pantalla. Abajo de los 3 puntos, hagan un clic donde dice más o more. Se les va a lanzar el globo terráqueo, otro clic, y favor de elegir el idioma de español. Inmediatamente van a escuchar la interpretación simultáneamente. Muchas gracias, estamos a sus órdenes. Thank you, Mr. Cameron, back to you.
Thank you, Claudia. I appreciate all that you do for us. Also like to thank everybody who's joining us online today. This is a little unusual for us, but we are all meeting on Zoom today. So thanks for joining us. And at this time, we will be doing the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you can join me, John. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty
and justice for all.
Well, thank you. You were emailed the minutes of the December 3rd meeting. Hope you had a chance to review them. We need a motion to approve.
Don, if I may, can we do roll?
Apologize. Yep, skipped over. Let's do roll.
All right, Rachel Arizmendi. Don Cameron.
Here.
Janae DaCosta.
Present.
Mike Gallo.
Here.
Hernan Hernandez. Linda Humiston.
Here.
Hernan just said present.
Perfect. Hernandez indicated he is present. Julia Jackson. Bryce Lundberg.
Here.
David Mancera.
Here, Rochelle also indicated she's present in the chat.
Thank you. Michelle Pissarro.
Here.
Joya Robinson. David Shabazian.
Here.
Ralston St. Hilaire.
Present.
Joy Sterling.
Here.
Chris Valdez. Mr. President, we have quorum.
Thank you, Josh. Now we'll move to the approval of the minutes from December 3rd, 2024. Hope you had a chance to take a look at them. If you have any comments, any corrections, if you could please make that known. If not, we need a motion to approve.
And Don, we do have a typo on the minutes that will be corrected on page 2 after the action item. Deferred was spelled wrong, so I'll correct that.
Okay, Josh. So we need a motion to approve as corrected.
So move.
Approved.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain since I was out.
Okay, one abstention. Motion passes. All right.
6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12. Motion passes. 11 ayes, 1 abstention.
Thank you, Josh. Secretary Ross, departmental update. Good to see you.
Good to see you, everyone, and looking forward to a good year this year. It has been a very busy past month, primarily for all of our staff in the Animal Health Division. As of this weekend, we had detections in 715 herds of dairy cattle and 61 poultry flocks of high path avian influenza. We've had a number of farms, I believe we're a little over 80 that have been released because they've been testing out of the 3-week process of negativity. So the epi curve on dairy seems to be going down. And so that's the update for that. We look forward to the continued great collaboration that we have with USDA on resources. We're doing a lot of research projects, UC Davis, so that we can learn from everything that's going on here and hopefully have some good information for moving forward at the end of this. We've also been meeting with egg brokers and egg suppliers because of the issues that happened over the holidays. I think it's important for people to understand that the holiday season, starting with Thanksgiving all the way through Christmas and New Year's, is the highest peak demand part of the egg supply on an annual basis, because we're very fortunate that we all get together and cook more often and have big family gatherings and lots of celebrations that involve good food, and that baking and sharing those breakfasts and brunch and everything else is really puts a big demand on the egg supply. So there's several factors that occurred this year. Obviously, the number of laying hens that we've lost here in California over the fall season have been a factor. It's estimated about 10 million laying hens have been lost. California supplies about 40% of the egg demand in California, but our consumers use a lot of eggs, and so we're very dependent on other states to also be suppliers of cage-free eggs to meet our Prop 12 requirements. We also have seen in the last 10 years, but especially in the last 5 years, we now have a total of 10 states that have cage-free requirements. So there's actually a bit more competition for that cage-free required housing standard happening across multiple states. And avian influenza has also impacted some large laying flocks in other states where they also have cage-free production. So we're very optimistic that once we're past this New Year's week, that we will see some settling down on the egg supply as well as the egg pricing. We've seen prices just in the time since Christmas actually remain steady here in California, but actually rising a little bit east of the Rockies. So we'll continue to watch that very, very carefully, but we've been doing a lot of check-ins on that. Everything else is moving along. I think it's of note, given the discussions we had at the December meeting of some of the topics we would like to evaluate and bring up for discussion in 2025, that on Friday, the governor released an executive order with some guidance on ultra-processed foods and having a better understanding of how we can improve our access to locally grown, more fresh, minimally processed foods, understanding how we can build on the legislation that the governor has signed in the last couple of years, but especially last year on certain food additives and dyes. So expect a lot of activity in that regard. And with that, I will conclude my report because it was the holiday season and we're trying to stay focused on getting through the end of the year. Always happy to entertain questions.
Do we have any questions for the secretary? If you want to raise your hand, that's great. I'll try and find you.
Yes, Bryce.
Hi, Secretary Ross, thank you so much for the report. Secretary Ross, on the avian influenza, do you believe that that is a issue that, I mean, it's going to continually be an issue, but do you believe it is an issue that is going to continue to maybe snowball, and that we're, in order to address it, we're going to have to work harder and harder to get ahead of it? Or do you believe it's going to be in cycles, and some years it's going to be higher and some lower? Or how would you kind of predict
I
that?
have to characterize it. We believe this will be the third or fourth year of wild bird transmission. And we believe that it is endemic in the wild bird population. And so in California, this fall season has been when we've seen the most outbreaks because of the Pacific Migratory Flyway. That seems to be the primary source of this. In the Midwest, they've got migratory bird populations more in the springtime, which also happens to align with the Easter demand cycle on that. So I'm very worried, and I'm not the scientific expert, but it seems to be endemic in the wild bird population, which makes it a big challenge for us. What is so unique about this year is the transmission, which we now recognize happened in Texas, but it took a while to really trace that one back to also wild birds. And so there's a lot of discussion about vaccines and herd immunity for the bovine population as a way of keeping the environmental load. I shouldn't be talking about these things. I'm not the scientist, Bryce. But that's why we're doing as many studies as we can to better understand transmission, other mitigation measures. And obviously USDA and FDA are doing trials on bovine vaccinations. That will take some time. It's not like we have, $100 million that have been devoted to this like we had at the beginning of COVID. So these are all evolving issues. And I think the most important thing for all of us is that we continue to work very closely, state and federal government, that we're staying very connected. We're very fortunate to have the infrastructure of county public health officials that we have. There's a lot of wastewater testing that is involved with that. And importantly, our universities. We really all need to be working together. This is a One Health scenario, if there ever was one. And I think we just have to be dedicated to taking a very integrated systems approach to this, of understanding this current outbreak, the previous ones, and what tools we might have available to us. But I think better understanding across human, environmental, and animal health is absolutely critical to better understanding and preparing for this.
Secretary Ross, and in my area, we think of the wild birds as being ducks and geese and cranes and swans.
Mm-hmm.
But wild birds, there's billions of wild birds that
Yes.
work through the Pacific Flyway.
Yes.
Are all the birds vectors? And the vectors that affect the hens, are California poultry more susceptible because of our free
No,
range?
because
Does it
this
affect
happens.
confined birds too?
No, this happens in other states. It just is a different season because of the migratory pathways. Ours just happens to be the fall season. And there's no way, we simply don't do the kind of testing preemptively on all the wild bird population as we're doing now with poultry and bovine. And so I don't have answers to that. I think it's going to take a lot of specialists coming together to really think this one through.
Right now, the chickadee are really hitting my fava beans really hard in my home garden, and it's the dang chickadees. Okay, thank you, Secretary Ross.
Yeah, I agree, Bryce. There's a plethora of small birds, along with waterfowl and all of the other birds that we see coming through. I would imagine have the potential, but it's amazing how this has spread. All right, any other comments, questions for the Secretary? Nope. All right, we are going to move on to defining regenerative agriculture for state policies and programs. Josh, I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Don. Again, this is just kind of a follow-up to our last board meeting and kind of a quick recap of the kind of regenerative agriculture process. We've been doing this now since 2022 in terms of really trying to define regenerative agriculture for state policies and programs. Again, kind of guidance to state agencies and departments on the implementation of regenerative agricultural programs. We conducted a total of 5 listening sessions regarding the topic, public listening sessions, 2 tribal listening sessions, had 3 sessions assembled by an agricultural work group, focusing on a variety of stakeholders to provide a recommendation to the board. That draft recommendation was presented to the board at the previous meetings, and we have revised that based on our discussion, and we'll be presenting the revised version here today. We've also had significant public comment throughout the entire process as well to involve stakeholders. Since the original draft, the changes that you will see on the new staff draft that has been revised focuses on the changes that you provided to the board. You provided to staff. One was to reference Sustainable Pest Management Roadmap. The second was to reference AB 1757 and soil health targets. The third was to include targeted outcomes in the introductory text. And the fourth was the linkage of CDFA programs of healthy soils and also UC integrated pest management. So those items have been incorporated in the draft, and I will share that on the screen now. So one revision that we did have from a board member that was submitted to the draft that was sent out to you all previously was the highlighted section that is in the introductory paragraph. So the sentence, the revised sentence is now regenerative agriculture as defined for use by the state of California policies and programs is an integrated approach to farming and ranching rooted in the principles of soil health, leading to improved targeted outcomes that focus on the health of the ecological system as a whole. This approach is informed by traditions and innovations from the original indigenous stewards of the land, and the examples of the targeted outcomes are listed below. We took the guidance from the board as well. Bryce was indicating we should, instead of bullets, maybe have letters or numbers. Bryce, I've included letters for you. Letters for you on that list. And again, this kind of fulfills the recommended changes that the board provided. So from a staff perspective, here is a new action item for your consideration for defining regenerative agriculture for state policies and programs.
All right. Michelle, I see your hand up.
Hi, and apologies because I know some of this may have been covered early in December.
2025.
And I wonder, I mean, I like the description that's in here. I think it's pretty comprehensive. I look for specificity when I think of definitions, you know, from a legal standpoint. And this is inclusive, and it almost seems like under the note where it says a staff draft definition reflects regenerative agriculture is not an endpoint and continues on. That has like a little bit more specificity than the paragraph below it where it says regenerative agriculture as defined is in that sentence. So it seems like it's a good working description. I was just trying to think of like if I were trying to use it in a legal sense, how would it be, you know, helpful or not? And I think it's pretty open from a legal standpoint, you know, in terms of how you would interpret this. But if it's sort of a general guidance, maybe it's better to just reference it as like general guidance or a description. And in that sense, it doesn't, I don't know. I attribute a definition to be pretty discrete. And so that's just the one thing that I pick up on. Overall, though, I do like the general direction of it.
Thanks, Michelle. I know if you looked under H that, you know, it does add I mean, there's a lot of discretion and flexibility in talking about, you know, specific production systems, ecoregions, indigenous cultural regions. So So it does have flexibility down in the lower body of the definition here. So let's throw that out there for comment.
I think just to follow up, my question would be like, how do you apply it? You know, like if you were to, and I know early on, I can't remember, months ago, right? I think there was going to be an effort, I think, just to kind of test it out with maybe there was an internal working group. And so I guess I'm curious if that, I think that was done, and just how, what was the response to that, but maybe some guidance then on how do you actually apply this might be helpful too. Because you have the examples A through H. Does it mean if you do one, that's fine, and that, that is sufficient, or does it have to be a combination? Those are just some questions that occur to me.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. And I think as part of our last meeting in December, and I am remiss, I think we've sent out in the board documentation, we did speak with the members of the Environmental Farming Act Science Advisory Committee that are agency partners on that committee to provide how they see this definition in terms of implementation of their policies and programs. And again, it was more, as you've indicated, kind of guidance for them in terms of developing also in some of the targets related to the scoping plan and other aspects. Going back to how are we going to coordinate, it would be the board's hope, as with this definition, lines 29 through 31, that state agencies and departments should coordinate with CDFA in the development of measurable, verifiable outcomes related to the individual policies. So our hope is, again, if an agency or department within the state is interested in creating a program focusing on regenerative agriculture, that they're using this kind of guideline, this definition as a guideline for creating those programs. And again, working with CDFA, pending the availability of resources, to be able to refine and make sure that those are related.
Thank you.
Sorry, I don't show everybody.
Linda has her hand up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have to admit, Michelle brings up an excellent point, and I didn't necessarily notice this before, because that paragraph that has the staff draft definition above the official one, I guess I just was assuming it was part of this, but the language in that paragraph actually is really good. And if it can be part of the official definition, I, for one, would like that. I mean, when you talk about not an endpoint, but a continuous implementation practice, minimizing inputs and impacts, I mean, that's actually really good language that isn't exactly in the current stuff below.
But as from a staff perspective, my thought is that information is contained within the letter. Once a draft definition is approved, that information would be included in the recommendation to the secretary on defining regenerative agriculture.
And I'm good with that. I just don't want it lost. I wasn't sure what the dotted line meant. Is it only the stuff below there, or does that paragraph or two above become part of it?
So below the dotted line would be the definition. The notes section would be included within our recommendation to the secretary. As the part of the letter. Here's the official letter saying, here's our recommendation for definitive agriculture, our regenerative agriculture. Here's how we see that, and positioning it. And then the attachment would be the staff draft.
So I have a question. If I wanted to suggest that about most of that paragraph above actually be dropped below to be included, would that mean postponing approval of this? Because I don't want to do that.
We can make that change. I'm not going to edit on live documents, but
No, I understand. I mean, I can put it into an official motion if needed.
Rochelle has her hand up, but this is a recommendation, and you can suggest that be looked at. That's one way. I'm just saying, as a way of a pathway forward. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rochelle.
Michelle?
Hi, thank you. I was just going to echo what Glenda shared, and that was my suggestion at our last meeting, is somehow reflecting that, however it is best captured, whether I think we were talking about a footnote or whether it's a note above or making a recommendation to drop it in. But I think, again, just to echo what Glenn had said and what I'd shared during the first meeting, I think the content in there is important to understand the following part of the policy. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Bryce, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Don. I just want to echo my appreciation to the CDFA team for taking the recommendations from our last meeting and incorporating them into this new draft. I do also recognize that we've worked on this, or this has been a part of the agenda for Department of Food and Ag for almost 2 years or over 2 years, and that the work of CDFA's team and the committees and the working group has been good. I would want to recognize the input of the organic community and the desire to have the organic farming as a baseline to begin regenerative agriculture. That would be my my hope, that regenerative would be an above and kind of beyond organic as a standard. That would be my preference, but I understand that this is a broader based definition than that. As goals, I would just like to say it's not a feel good, and that everybody can participate. I do have my example here of a participation award, and my grandkids get them for soccer. This definition should not be just a feel-good participation award for all farmers. It's for those who are making a big difference. I would have a goal that it would not be inclusive of carcinogens or mutagens or pesticide action network bad actors, to prevent the greenwashing of what consumers would be expecting of regenerative agriculture. But I do want to recognize that it does include all of the issues and points that the Environmental and Science Committee recommended relative to the environment, relative to social issues, human health, and economic issues. And so I do want to recognize that there's been significant input and an inclusion of I think of an attempt to include all of the ideas that have been presented. Dawn, I look forward to this, that there would be a motion and that this would move. I was wondering if that would be before or after public comment today.
That's a good question.
We would take public comment before action
Okay,
on the item.
thank you very much. Thanks for letting me make those comments.
Appreciate it, Bryce. Bryce, I know I know a lot of your concerns, but I think that those are going to be addressed in the certification process as well. To actually claim a regenerative claim, which this is not about, as you know. I would tend to think that you would cross that bridge when you or if you move forward with a certification process for your farm, for your operation that you're doing. I think that your certifier is going to have rules and regulations that you're going to have to qualify to use the term regenerative. I look at this as you know, this is for different state agencies to have guidelines to where they want to put programs out that are regenerative in nature. They'll have something. They'll have the guidelines to look at. They'll have the coordination with CDFA. So I look at it a little differently than you do, but I look at the certification process as the time when you're not going to be certified if you are doing some practices that are totally against regenerative farming. So
I would hope that too, Don. My concern is that in the organic area, it sets a floor, and you have the ability to go above the floor, but there's a floor. But in the case of regenerative and the definition we're putting out, is the floor so low that anyone doing anything, if a certifier would choose to say, we'll certify to this, and that the range of what shows up in the market relative to regenerative would be so vast that it could mean anything from I used one less pesticide to I completely am a self-contained enclosed farm completely on crop. Anyway, that's maybe my point. Is that it's got anyway, Don, you and I have talked about this a lot, and I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate the perspective of that CDFA's got a constituency of many. So thank you, Don.
thank you, Bryce. I appreciate it. So, sorry, Josh, I can't see if anybody else has questions.
I'm not seeing that either, sir. If anyone else has a question from the panel, if you could please use your hand icon.
Michelle, I see yours.
Thank you. I put it in the chat, but I do, I'll just want to say that I support Glenda's suggestion about moving that paragraph in the notes down below. And I appreciate all the work that staff has dedicated to this. I think it just adds a little more specificity, and it is a little more outcome oriented, which I like. And so I think moving it down could really add a little more definition, frankly, to the definition. So if if that's a possibility, then as part of moving this forward, I'd love to be able to do that.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, do we have any other questions or comments? All right, Josh, do you want to go to public comment at this time?
Yes, sir. If you'd like to make a public comment on this agenda item, please use your hand icon and I can unmute your line. All right. Keith? Rootsert, I apologize if I got that wrong. You are unmuted. Keith?
Very good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Very good. My name is Keith Rootsart. I'm with the Giant Kelp Restoration Project in Monterey. And one of the things that we've been working on is a regenerative fishery, which is not agriculture necessarily, but it's aquaculture. So basically the idea is you take these urchins that are eating all this kelp, and we've lost 90% of our kelp in California. I don't know if you're all aware of that. But by removing these urchins and putting them into an urchin ranching project and feeding them, we're able to provide food for people and also regrow all this kelp that is being eaten by the urchins. So we were successful in doing that. And one of the things we're pushing for in this next year is to start this urchin ranching. And so most of what you're defining is right in line with this, where you're making, the habitat better for the work you're doing on it. And I think that it'd be helpful in working with state regulators from the Ocean Protection Council and Fish and Game Commission if we were able to rely on this definition and say that this is something that that we're doing. So that's my comment. I mean, I don't know if it really even fits. Maybe I'm in the wrong meeting and you can tell me to go away. That's perfectly acceptable. But I think we're close, and I'm coming in late, and I can appreciate that too. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith.
Mr. Gore, who has joined us in the audience.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Robert Gore. I'm a lobbyist for the Coalco Group and usually represent the California Association of Wine Grape Growers. But this morning, this comment from the past 10 years of chairing the Agricultural Technology and Economic Development Roundtable. It includes all relevant state agencies, all the major ag trades, and a bunch of research organizations, including Linda's shop. This endeavor, as I learned through painful experience serving another governor, is wonderful, but you don't want to get too specific too soon. It's evolving and it's important and it's precedential, and you got to pack your patience, if I can be didactic. There is something that UC Davis is involved in, that we learned about at the roundtable. It's called Regen Score. It has a website, .org. It's indicative of where this is headed and how it's being successfully birthed. And it may reassure everyone. I will also add, through personal knowledge and observation, that the last paragraph in this draft is key, because Secretary Ross has spent invested a decade working with other state agencies. Her standing is enormous and influential, and that cooperation, and they all aware, by the way, parenthetically, of the need to avoid regulatory burdens on growers. That cooperation will bloom over time, and please be reassured that this will go in the direction in which you're talking about. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Bob.
Gabrielle Ludwig.
Yes, good morning, and thank you to all who have worked on this for 2 years. And I think it has come out to something that is workable for the purpose that it's been designed for. One little niggle is that based on what came out of the advisory committee, can't think of the proper name, one thing that got a little bit lost is the nutrient management side. And so if we do want to include that here, you may want to include some things such as UC's crop manage program or NRCS's nutrient management programs. Just wanted to highlight that. Thank you.
Gabrielle, before you go, is that kind of captured within NRCS's conservation practice standards?
It could be, except for you have that under the greenhouse gas one, so I don't know if people would understand it to look at it from that angle. Okay. And that does not include the UC ANR's crop manage program.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Sarah Tiffany, your line is unmuted.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Tiffany, and I work for the Community Alliance with Family Farmers, and want to reiterate the appreciation of all the work that's gone into this process. Just a couple of comments. First one being that in the top sentence of kind of that starts the definition, it mentions that is an integrated approach to farming and ranching rooted in principles of soil health, but then goes on to mention the health of the ecological system as a whole. And I wanted to appreciate that further down in the examples of target outcomes, there's mention of not only soil health, but also biodiversity, as well as sustainable pest and integrated pest management. I wonder if, in order to draw a tie to those lower examples where the focus is not only on soil health, but again, on these sort of ecological principles on the farm or ranch as a whole, if it would make sense for that top paragraph to say farming and ranching rooted in principles of soil health and biodiversity, leading to improved targeted incomes. To draw that tie to what you're talking about below, in part because, you know, soil health practices and principles are excellent, but so are, you know, conservation practices that, you know, provide more habitat for pollinators and beneficial insects, as an example. So just a suggestion for having that be a more kind of holistic inclusion at the top. My other wonderment, and I don't know that this is possible, but I appreciated Michelle's comments earlier about how, you know, the definitions are often more specific, and given regenerative agriculture, I think here is, as you've mentioned, it's really a set of guidelines. And I wonder if using the, you know, words guidelines or framework would actually be a more accurate way to describe the results of this process and this draft here. So just another comment there. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Richard, your line is unmuted.
Oh, perfect. Good morning, board members. Richard Filgus with the California Farm Bureau. Yeah, just wanted to say thank you all for all of your hard work on this. Farm Bureau's had some issues with this definition since you know, it's initially kind of being established, but we think that it definitely has come a long way. And one of the things that we just wanted to be kind of very clear about is that we want to ensure that this definition is not to be included in statute. We have real concern that you know, when you start when you include new terms, even if they're referencing something else, such as you know, the sustainable pest management, when you start including things like, say, priority pesticides, that can be a whole other can of worms. But Josh, we just wanted to thank you that in that portion under 11C, the reduce the reliance on pesticides, that it doesn't include the word priority, just because that those haven't been defined yet. And so we want to thank you all for your hard work. But again, we would just like that maybe at the top paragraph that it says that it's not developed for certification or to be included in statute. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee, your line's unmuted.
Oh, thank you. Yes, this is Renee Pinnell with Western Plant Health Association. We just wanted to comment and thank all the work of the work group as well as CDFA staff on developing these guidances and the definition. We think that you've been able to create a document that a wide spectrum of growers are going to be able to utilize, and we appreciate all of that work. We agree with Farm Bureau as far as trying to avoid this becoming statutory language. We think what's important about this process is that this is an ongoing process, and statute tends to then limit the opportunity for whether it's new technologies or new practices to be incorporated into this regenerative agriculture effort. And so we appreciate all the work that's been done. We also, again, want to emphasize that we think it's important that the language or the guidances allow for new technologies that can, in effect, increase biodiversities in the soil are able to be utilized by farmers moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Richard, do you still have another comment?
No, sorry, I forgot to lower my hand. Apologies.
No problem, thank you. I'm seeing no further public comments at this time.
Thank you, John. So we've, I think among those we've heard from on the board and the public comment, I think one of the main points is, the possible moving of the top portion into the actual draft. Is that the idea that, or the kind of the consensus of our board? And if so, Josh, how do you see that as being an issue, or just we move it down and fit it into the definition? And Glenda, I do see your hand up.
Well, my question is, do you need a motion to make that change? I don't know what the process is.
I'm not sure on that one.
Yeah, so yes, we have a staff draft presented to you, so any changes, I will need a motion.
Okay, so I've been playing with the editing. I'm going to put it into the chat. And then I'm going to move that, and Josh, I'll let you read it. It's in the chat.
Is it the same one?
It's the one I just emailed you as well.
Perfect.
So basically, I dropped down that second, I dropped down one full sentence, and I combined the last one from above with the one from below to make it flow. It's nice when the commentary actually flows.
Okay, so the proposed edit is the addition is to drop the note into the introductory text of the definition. Regenerative agriculture is defined for use by the state of California policies and programs as an integrated approach to farming and ranching rooted in the principles of soil health, leading to improved targeted outcomes. Regenerative agriculture is not an endpoint, but a continuous implementation of practices that over time minimize inputs and environmental impacts and further enhances the ecosystem while maintaining or improving productivity, economic contributions, and community benefits. Regenerative agriculture is an ongoing continuum of sustainability for California farmers and ranchers, informed by current science, as well as traditions and innovations from the original indigenous stewards of the land.
Voila.
Yeah, good job. Janae, I see your hand up.
Nice job. Glenda, on combining those, I would like to just say, if we could either have in that principles of soil health, either adding the ecosystem health or adding the biodiversity that was mentioned by one of the public commentators. I think that would be a little bit more round out than it's just being about soil, because it really is looking at that whole ecosystem.
I'm open to a friendly amendment to add "and ecosystem health" behind soil.
Janae,
and that was a motion, by the way. You probably need a second before we do discussion.
Janae, if we incorporated the amendment that you had provided prior to the meeting that was shared on screen, does that capture?
Yes, that would capture. I had tried to wordsmith it into that sentence. So for me, I do think we just want to make sure it is a little bit more than just soil, if in the definition.
I would like to remind, maybe Bryce is going to comment on this. The reason that the emphasis was placed on soil was, again, that the soil was a #1 priority of the agricultural work group. And again, it was a priority in our last discussions as well. And so that was why it was kind of specified specifically. So just reminding the board of that.
Bryce, you have a comment?
Well, I agree with what Josh just referenced there, but I don't think it's necessarily meant to be exclusive, right? And that the biodiversity of ecosystems is, I think, a welcome inclusion, so long as it doesn't minimize the importance of soil health. And I don't think it does, right? It in elevating the interests of biodiversity and ecological systems, I don't think it has to minimize the value of soil health. So I I agree that soil health was often referenced as the number one, but it's not exclusive, and the overall definition recognizes several aspects of regenerative. So I was just not following very well exactly where that additional paragraph was fitting, and was wondering before we vote on a motion, if that could come up on the screen in a final type of a version of what we will be motioning on.
No, I agree with you, Bryce. It'd be good to have it put together.
I like the idea of including it. I just would like to be able to see it.
Yes, again, I would like to avoid editing online on the air. I will, if we could take a short break after maybe this discussion, I can make those changes and then we could review those again.
All right, Janae, did you have another question? Is your hand's still up?
Apologies.
And I did put a variation in the chat for us.
Well, what do you need, Josh? About 10 minutes for a break?
If we could reconvene at 11:05 would be great.
Very good. Are we gonna remain
We'll remain online, so we'll just
online
go for 5 minutes.
All right.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we'll be back at 10:05.
Don, could I ask a question about process?
Yes, sir.
If there is a motion to approve, and this is approved by the board, State Board of Food and Ag today, does it go then to Secretary Ross for adoption by the state of California? This is a recommendation to the secretary?
Correct. The State Board of Food and Agriculture, as you know, is an advisory body. So the definition that we finalize, hopefully today, will then be submitted as a recommendation to the secretary.
Okay. And then I just was wondering your thoughts on just if this gets passed in Western ag press and in other kind of press releases or PR, would you expect a headline that says California defines regenerative agriculture? And I guess in some ways I would say, yes, that's what we're doing, but is that the headline? California defines regenerative agriculture, or is it something else?
My preference is that, going back to the discussion in December, we can only provide this as guidance and a framework to other agencies, which was the purpose. That's the why we're doing this. We also want to be able to use it, but this provides guidance for state agencies for consideration of defining regenerative agriculture within the context of their programs. So thank you, Bryce, for that, because we want to be very clear about the purpose and reminding people that this is what we spent exhaustive hours on defining for our programs. And we are sending this to our sister agencies, probably through the soil health initiative that was established at the very beginning of our climate smart ag practices, to really help other agencies understand this as a guideline for practices that they can incorporate on lands that they have any interaction with.
Thank you, Secretary Ross.
Perfect. So if you can just give me 5 minutes, and I'll get a draft that we could review set up. If you are online and a member, if you could please mute your line and turn off your camera, it would be appreciated.
Very good. 11:05.
11:05. All right, everyone, I think we are good. Apologies for the delay there. Let me see if I can get this up for us.
All right, Josh, appreciate you doing that mid-meeting.
You know how I love that.
I know that. Can you enlarge that a little?
I'm trying to, I'm messing with the, is that good?
Better. That's even better.
Okay, so that part was cut up there. Linda?
At the risk of sounding self-serving, I'm going to say I kind of liked my second version better for two reasons. I kind of liked calling out soil health, biodiversity, and ecosystem resiliency because some of this is about resiliency. And below, this isn't informed just by traditions of our Native Americans. Current science is also part of this.
Oh, yes. I did miss that.
So it had said in there, informed by current science, as well as, yeah. I could live with this as is, but you know, that conversation you made earlier about the importance of soil health, the idea of actually saying, that's why I made it soil health, biodiversity, and ecosystem resiliency. I thought that really captured it pretty all encompassing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Can you send that to me? I did not see that in the chat. Could you send me that language and I can put it up real quick via email?
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Glenda suggested. So if we can add.
It's in the chat at 10:56, Josh.
If you could email it, it makes it much easier for Josh to do the work. It is very difficult to do it from a chat box.
Thank you, Secretary.
Yeah.
Rolston?
Yes, as a procedural matter, Mr. Chair, the preamble is been recommended to move to the main body, and then we are also editing the language therein. My suggestion is that we consider two motions. One, to move the actual preamble to the main body, and secondly, another motion to approve the redacted or revised version. I think these are two separate actions.
Okay, thank you, Wilson.
I just hit send.
Thank you. Okay, I believe this is it. So the changes are highlighted text. We included soil health, biodiversity, and ecosystem resilience, leading to improved targeted outcomes. And this was Janae's original inclusion that focused on the health of the ecological system as a whole. This following highlighted paragraph is pretty much from the preamble section with the addition of informed by current science.
All right. Appreciate that, Josh. I know you don't like doing that. But well done.
Cool. And so to Ralston's point, one would be, we'd like to entertain a motion for one, moving the preamble to the actual
body
text, and then amendments to the text based on input from the board. So it'd be two separate motions.
Joy, your hand is up.
My question is whether the having both ecosystem resiliency and the health of the ecological system as a whole, isn't that redundant? It seems to me that it's one or the other.
Yeah, I hadn't included that second one. I had ended a period with targeted outcomes.
I agree with that question.
I had my hand up to make a motion.
So now we will strike that language.
Yeah, I think it is cleaner. I'm not exactly sure how to move this as two pieces. Is it not possible to say I move to approve the document as currently edited?
I think Rolston had the appropriate one. We would like to move.
Okay.
Recommendation is
Then I will move to move language from the preamble into the body of the document as shown on the screen currently.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. We have a motion to move the preamble to the main body. Do we have any discussion? I can't see Josh if anybody has had their hand up or.
No.
Okay.
Rolston, do you have your hand? Okay, thank you. And since we will need to do roll call.
All right. Go ahead, Josh.
Rachel Arizmendi.
Aye.
Don Cameron.
Aye.
Janae DaCosta.
Aye.
Mike Ella.
Aye.
Linda Himiston.
Aye.
Hernan Hernandez.
Aye.
Bryce Lundberg.
Aye.
David Mancera. Michelle Passero.
Aye.
David Shabazian.
Aye.
Rolston St. Hilaire.
Aye.
Joy Sterling.
Aye.
Chris Valadez. Motion passes 11-0.
All right. We now need Joy, your hands up or just up?
I'm really willing to make a motion.
Go right ahead.
I move that we adopt the revised language as displayed on the screen right now.
I second it.
All right. Do we have any discussion? No? We will call for the vote. Go ahead, Josh.
Rachel Arizmendi.
Aye.
Tom Cameron.
Aye.
Janae DaCosta.
Aye.
Mike Ella.
Aye.
Fernando Hernandez,
Aye.
Brenda Humiston,
Aye.
Bryce Lundberg,
Aye.
David Mancera, Michelle Pacero,
Aye.
David Shabazian,
Aye.
Golston St. Hilaire,
Aye.
Joyce Sterling.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0.
Well, congratulations, everyone.
We
This
have
is-
not passed the definition. We have passed amendments to the definition.
come on, Josh.
2, 3?
Yes.
So we need a motion to pass the amendments to the,
We need a motion. My recommendation from staff is a motion to approve the definition as amended and have the chair send to the secretary as a recommendation.
all right, we need a motion. Joy, your hand's up.
But first, yes, but first a question is, are we calling this a definition? Or are we calling this guidelines? Per going back to Bryce's question about what the headline would be.
From a staff perspective, the entire process that we have gone through for the last 2 years has been defining regenerative agriculture for state policies and programs.
Well, then I think then that's the way we need to say that that's what it is. So instead of, so I move that we approve that.
We move to approve the
Definition as amended.
definition as amended
Yes,
and have the president submit to the secretary as a
yes,
recommendation. Yes.
yes.
I'll
Second.
second that.
Thanks, both of you.
Discussion.
Bryce, your hand's up.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking that Joy asked the question of what is it that we're passing, and that we're passing a definition for regenerative agriculture for programs and policies. And is that in the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Could you read the motion?
The motion is to move to approve the definition as amended for regenerative agriculture for state policies and programs.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, Josh, would you like to do a roll call?
Yes, sir. Rachel Arizmendi,
Aye.
Don Cameron,
Aye.
Sinead Acosta,
Aye.
Mike Gallo,
Aye.
Fernando Hernandez,
Aye.
Linda Humiston,
Aye.
Bryce Lundberg,
Aye.
Michelle Pacero,
Aye.
David Shabazian,
Aye.
Golston St. Hilaire,
Aye.
Joyce Sterling.
Aye.
Motion passes 11-0. Congratulations.
That's exactly right. I was a little premature on the congratulations, but you know, this has really been a long 2-year process, and I'm just really pleased with the definition that has been brought out today and approved. So I guess really got to go back and thank you know, Jeff Delott at the science panel for their involvement early on, for Doria Robinson, the chair of the Regenerative Ag Working Group, and their working group. They put a lot of time in. We had the California Native American tribes. We had a lot of comments that were submitted in person and online. CDFA staff, really appreciate all the work and time that you've put into this, especially Virginia Jameson. I know she took the reins with a lot of this as well. So, and to our board, and also to Secretary Ross, for actually bringing this and starting the process over 2 years ago, and and seeing a positive outcome here. It's really been great. The definition is going to allow California growers and ranchers to participate in state programs that'll improve carbon sequestration, reduce greenhouse gases, and improve soils throughout the state to provide long-term benefits to make California a better place to live because of what we grow and how we grow it. You know where I got that, guys, so congratulations.
Shan, good job.
So really, thank you to everyone. It's been a long process. It's been fascinating, and really a lot of work went into this, and really appreciate everybody that was involved in this from day one. So Bryce, I see your hand up.
Well, thank you, Don, and congratulations, Don. Congratulations, Secretary Ross, and to this Department of Food and Ag, and to this board. I was wondering how soon the language as adopted would be available, as far as just being able to share that as it's been adopted today.
I will work on getting the end of the week is kind of best. What will happen is that I need to draft the letter that will go to the recommendation to the secretary, and then you'll each receive a formal copy of that one that is submitted, and it will be posted online for the public as well.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh.
All right. Joy, I see your hand up.
This is a silly little thing, but I don't know if you all noticed in the chat that carrots make urchins taste better as opposed to spinach. Just if you're feeding your urchins, I just found that to be absolutely fascinating, and it just shows that you can learn something new every day.
When you say urchins, are you talking about grandchildren?
Well, they're gonna like carrots more than spinach, so yes, I think.
There you go.
Awesome. I do have, if I could, Don, a couple of just board announcements. I know we were still pending for our February board meeting. That actually will be on February 4th here at CDFA or virtually. Don, I will discuss that with you. We will not be attending the World Ag Expo just because of budgetary considerations and impacts that we're having here at the department. So again, our regular scheduled meeting would be the first Tuesday, which is February 4th. In addition, it is the end of the year or beginning of the new year. Each of you should have received your Form 700 notifications from the FPPC. So make sure that those are submitted online. There has been an adjustment. You are no longer submitting to CDFA. You are submitting directly to FPPC. So please be sure to kind of follow that information and link. If you need help, please reach out. And that
Appreciate that.
my updates.
Do we have any other discussion items from the board?
Can I just say once again how proud I am of all of us?
I agree with you.
We are so adult.
We are.
And this is recently retired, Rochelle. Way too young for that, but good for you.
Well, Josh, we need to go to public comment for items, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that are not on the agenda.
That is correct.
All right.
If you would like to make public comment for items not on the agenda, please use your hand icon and I can unmute your line. I'm currently seeing no public comments.
Very good. Well, it's almost 11:30, about a half hour early. So I just want to thank everybody for their participation and being here today online, and really congratulations for getting our definition out there. I think that it's going to be critical long-term for California, farmers and ranchers, and really for all of the states. So just want to thank everybody. It's been great. Nice to get it wrapped up. And have a great rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to Claudia and Leah for the interpretation, much appreciated.
Yep.
2025, good things will happen.
There we go. So we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.